This session is part of a webinar series which aims to assist researchers, librarians, and institutions in the adoption of digital tools and persistent identifiers for a significant increase of research discoverability globally and to increase efficiency in scholarly workflows.
Welcome to our webinar series on open science for discoverability of African research. My name is Arthur Mangonda, a digital collection curator at Africa Archive. So I'll start with a brief introduction of Africa Archive. Africa Archive is a community-led digital archive for African research communication. By enhancing the visibility of African research, we enable discoverability and collaboration opportunities for African scientists on the continent as well as globally. For today, we will welcome our speakers. The first speaker will be Vanessa Fairhurst, the head of community at PREreview. Our second speaker is Chad Sensing, a head of product at PREreview. And the third speaker is Roslyn Dine, a founder of Rwanda Preprint Club. And our fourth one is Lassie Meker, a lecturer at the University of Khartoum and co-director of the African Reproducibility Network. Then our last and final speaker is Ebuka Ezeike, a project manager at Access to Perceptive and the Africa Archive. They will be speaking on the topic open peer review, collaborative preprint review, and opportunities to learn and teach others. But before we listen to them, we have to give a brief of our speaker, like a brief background of our speakers. So we'll start with the first speaker, Vanessa Fairhurst. Vanessa joined the PREreview team in November 2022. She studied her undergraduate degree in European languages and business management. But before going on to study her master's in applied and professional ethics. She began her career in academia, working at International Development Organization, INASP, with a focus on improving access to scholarly information and research in developing countries. She then went on to support publishers around the world as a community engagement manager at Crossref, building a global ambassador team and collaborating with others to ensure that scholarly research metadata is registered, linked, and distributed. Openness, accessibility, and equity have always been central to Vanessa's work, and she greatly enjoys supporting and empowering researchers to improve the research process in her role as a head of community at PREreview. Then we'll also introduce the second speaker, Chad Sensing. Chad joined the PREreview team in late October 2022. Prior to joining PREreview, he worked for the Mozilla Foundation in a variety of roles. Most recently, as a program manager on the MozFest team. But while at Mozilla, Chad worked on several projects, including its web literacy curriculum, open leadership framework, Open Leaders Program, and community and program management for the MozFest Trustworthy AI Working Group, and the facilitator and volunteer communities at MozFest. Before that, Chad taught middle school for 14 years and helped found 2 small public schools for non-traditional learners. He's passionate about helping people discover their individual and shared capacities for social good and positive change. Outside work, Chad finds himself reading and playing games as well as hanging out with friends and family. Then we also have the third speaker, is Roslyn Dine, a founder of Rwanda Preprint Club. Ms. Roslyn Dine is a public health profession and social scientist in her early career. She has a background in sociology and anthropology from the University of Bill, Cameroon. And she also has a master's degree in public health from the University of Rwanda. Her areas of interest have been sub-Saharan African public health and social issues, such as infectious diseases, healthcare access, community engagement, and mobilization. Rosaline created the Rwanda Preprint Club because she is particularly interested in open science and access. Rosaline intends to leverage her network and learning opportunities to produce culturally acceptable solutions and enhance health outcomes and scientific communication in African communities by combining her skills in implementing research and community involvement. But last but least is Lasmi Yahia, a lecturer at the University of Khartoum and co-director of the African Reproducibility Network, ARIN. Lasmi Lahia is a lecturer, as I said, but currently he's finalizing her PhD in medicinal chemistry. Lasmi also holds a Master's of Science in Molecular Medicine and a Bachelor of Pharmacy. She's a dedicated research assistant at the Maestona Research Center, focusing on pioneering drug discoveries for neglected tropical diseases that heavily impact her community. Lasmi's academic and professional endeavors are driven by her profound commitment to advancing open science and enhancing science communication. She tirelessly works towards bringing the global equity gap in scientific knowledge and fostering an inclusive, accessible scientific community across Africa. Our final speaker is Ebuka Ezeike, who is a physicist from the Federal University of Technology, Minna, in Niger State, Nigeria. With a background in physics and over a decade of experience as an educator in the field, Ebuka brings a wealth of knowledge to his endeavors. His expertise extends to freelance work, where he delivers writing services, including articles and blog posts. Additionally, he manages 2 academic podcasts that shows refining audio and video content, including transcriptions. And he's passionate about open science hardware. Ebuka Ezeike has been an active member of the African Open Science Hardware and the Gathering of the Open Science Hardware community since 2022. In collaboration with Gosh, he organized an impactful open science hardware workshop in 2023 held in Abuja, Nigeria. Presently, Ebuka serves as the project manager for Access to Perceptives, where he coordinates various initiatives, including the African publishing platform, AfricaArchive, aimed at enhancing the accessibility of research originating from and about Africa. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. And now over to our first speaker, Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Arthur. So I'm just going to share my screen.
Yes, you can go and share.
Okay, you should be able to see it, but let me know if not.
Yes, we can see your screen now.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so since we had those fantastic introductions from Arthur, I'm going to just jump right into what we're going to cover today in the webinar. So I'm going to talk a bit more about who we are at PREreview and some of the ways in which we address the current challenges in the peer review system. We're going to look at how publishing a review works on the PREreview platform. My colleague Chad's going to give you a demo of how that looks. We're going to hear some case studies from across the African research context with people working with PREreview. And then we'll also talk about what's next and how you can get involved if you so wish. So first of all, why peer review? So PREreview was founded over 6 years ago by 3 early career scientists inspired by the same dream to radically change, transform, and rethink scholarly evaluation, specifically to challenge the idea of who we count as an expert, or as you can see in this definition from Wikipedia here, who counts as a qualified member of a profession to provide feedback to a piece of work. Peer review is also something that's often depicted as being part of a sort of combative, disempowering experience that researchers have to go through, often alone and unequipped, in order to share and gain recognition for their work. Also highlighted in this image, you can see that reviewers also often form part of a homogeneous group of people, So everyone here is depicted to be the same ethnicity, potentially all male, potentially quite senior in their career, and this is not at all representative of the diversity of reviewers whose work is being assessed. And it's also an opaque and complex process over which few have control and knowledge of its mechanisms or awareness of how they can contribute to it. And the opaqueness of the process is also what makes it so hard to objectively evaluate. So in summary, our work at PREreview is a direct response to how inequitable and unsustainable the peer review system is. And this includes key issues of the traditional peer review model, including that the pool of people called to do peer review is and who are willing to do it is so small and is often insufficient for the number of review requests that come in. The composition of the reviewer pool is homogeneous across many different dimensions, which can cause issues of bias within the system. Most reviewers are male, mid to late career researchers who are subjectively selected by journal editors as experts in their field. And additionally, despite peer review playing such a vital role in what research is published and by who, most reviewers have never received any formal training in conducting peer review. And on top of that, most often it goes unpaid and unrecognized. And in line with that, why preprints? So at PREreview, we do the open peer review specifically of preprints. And preprints are an early version of work that is published online, usually before it's gone through any form of peer review. And the bottom, on this slide, the process along the bottom is the more traditional peer review process that's usually carried out by a journal. So for the most case, this happens in the dark, outside of the public eye. So as you may well know, a manuscript is submitted by authors to a journal. It then goes through peer review, successfully or unsuccessfully, often for multiple rounds, and then it's not before several months to years that the manuscript reaches the public. So preprints allow for the early sharing of research. It all happens in the open, and it also enables and opens the doors to constructive community peer review at a time in which the changes can still be made and feedback can be taken on board. And we also know that getting early feedback on their work is also a top motivating factor for authors who are publishing preprints. Even above the off-cited claims of staking a priority claim on their research or to use it for citations for job or grant applications, one of the key reasons why people post preprints is to be able to get feedback early on their work. So at PREreview, we believe that peer review expertise should be measured by constructive contributions and community engagement, and not by seniority and prestige. And we envision a world in which feedback to scholarly outputs is done openly, rapidly, constructively, and by a diverse global community of experts. And our mission is to bring more equity and transparency to this process by supporting and empowering communities of researchers, particularly those who are at the early stages of their career and have been historically excluded, to review preprints in a process that is rewarding to them. And our work to support this mission comes under 3 pillars. The central pillar being our open and collaborative infrastructure for participation in preprint review, where any researcher with an ORCID identifier can create an account and provide constructive feedback, lowering the barriers to participation in peer review, and increasing the number and diversity of reviewers available to authors, editors, and journals who are seeking preprint review. And we do this alongside providing training on constructive and ethical review practices to researchers of all career levels, but with a specific focus on those who are at the early stages of their career. And we also build community via engaging researchers around the world in collaborative reviews of preprints. Some of these are live reviews that we do together online at the same time. So the first of these pillars on the previous slide was our open reviewers training workshops. And these are usually conducted in partnership with organizations and institutions. And the workshops can span between a 2-hour standalone workshop to a 3-part, 6-hour workshop, accumulating in the chance to put into practice the skills that are gained by writing a collaborative review together. The content is tailored to specific audiences. So for example, undergraduate students, graduate students, postdocs. And the content focuses on challenging the status quo of peer review, understanding and identifying personal bias that can be rooted in systems of oppression, with hands-on practice of recognizing and mitigating personal bias within peer review, and practicing how to provide constructive, clear, and actionable feedback. Participants also have the opportunity to gain credit for this course and for their participation, and can also stay engaged with the pre-review community to build on what they have learned during the training. A good example of this model is our Champions program. Some of our champions are in this workshop today, so they'll be speaking to you a little bit. And this was piloted only this year, so this is our first round of the Champions program. We had 20 champions from across a variety of different countries and backgrounds and career levels, and they all participated in our Open Reviewers workshop with an additional focus on them providing this training to others within their own communities and helping us to translate and contextualize this work for researchers around the world. This is just a very brief slide here just to show you where our applicants came from this year. And we'll be starting this process again in early 2025, and hopefully we'll have an even broader and more diverse team next year. And our Open Reviewers Toolkit is resources that are openly available on Zenodo under a CC BY 4.0 license, which means they're able to be used and adapted to different contexts. A number of our community members, not just our Champions team, have themselves already used these resources to run their own training in peer review. And we're excited to see how this can scale further and continue to be increasingly community-led in future. We're going to hear shortly from other speakers on how they've adapted and built upon these resources, so I won't talk more about that here, but Vanessa will be talking more about that specifically shortly. So another one of those pillars that we had there was collaborative reviews. So either as part of Module 3 of our training workshop or as a standalone offering, we also conduct live reviews. And these are core to our mission of increasing diversity and equity in scholarly peer review. Live reviews allow for structured and constructive discussions, encouraging diverse methods of participation via video conference tools such as Zoom. And throughout these events, we strive to support and empower the voices of our fellow researchers, and particularly those who are underrepresented in scholarship and who are at the beginning of their careers. And these are usually events that are organized in partnership with journals, institutions, and community members. In a typical live review, it usually lasts about 90 minutes. We all come together, we provide answers to a series of structured questions that we answer together as a group. All the notes from these calls are then compiled together, and then we publish a final review on PREreview.org. Participants have the opportunity, if they wish, to be named as an author of the review and to receive credit for their participation in the review event. And here you can see an example of a recent live review. And this was conducted with the Rwanda Preprint Club, and Rosalind's going to talk about this a little bit more detail shortly. But here you can just see the page on PREreview. You can see that we've got the authors' names there. They're connected with their ORCID identifiers. They've been happy to have their public names on the review. The review's got a DOI. And you can also see at the top there that this was in response to a request for feedback from one of the authors, and it's tagged there as a live review. And Chad will also be talking more about this in his demo as well. And finally, just to mention here as well, before we go on to the actual platform, we also have community groups who sometimes run their own live reviews, as well as organizing their own asynchronous collaborative reviews. And these are known as our pre-review clubs. And pre-review clubs are preprint reviewing clubs that come together around any sort of shared elements. So this might be affiliation, affinity, interest, location. And here clubs, for example, we've got here a JMEA club, and they have their own page to highlight reviews that come from their club. We've got here an ASAP Bio cancer biology crowd, and they helped us to pilot this feature at ASAP Bio. Got here a language club. We've got also the HHMI, Howard Hughes Medical Institute Club, which was formed as part of a training pilot in collaboration with PREreview. And we've got more clubs that are forming every week. So you can always take a look at the PREreview website, and if you would like to get involved in any of the clubs, quite a few of them are open, available for new members, or you could look at setting your own up. And finally, central to all of our work is our preprint review platform. So it is open source, it is participatory, so we design this with community input. It's agile, we make small changes with measured feedback over time. It's inclusive, so we want to lower barriers for entry. So login is done with an ORCID identifier, but there's also an option of public and pseudonymous profiles, and Chad will talk a little bit more about that. It's adaptable, so there's multiple different paths to help you write a review. So there's a structured path, there's also a free-form path. You can copy and paste in what you've done elsewhere. It's citable, so all of our reviews, as you just saw on the previous slide, get DOIs. And it's also interoperable, so we're preprint server agnostic. There's a lot of different preprint servers we support. And the links to our reviews appear on bioRxiv, medRxiv, Europe PMC, and Society. And another feature we have is that authors can also request feedback to peer review via our core notify protocol. And Chad will also touch on that in a little bit more detail. I won't go in too much into that and ruin the demo for Chad. So one final thing to do here is that our collaboration with ORCID is a vital one to ensure that we're able to make our vision of a more equitable and inclusive peer review system a reality. And one of the reasons we work with ORCID is that we have strong value alignment between our two organizations. So openness is very important to both of us, and we consistently work to make sure that our work is as transparent as possible. Login, as I've said, to the preview platform is done via ORCID, and this also helps to build trust, where we can provide reviewers with different ways in which they can sign their reviews to gain credit and start building up their profile on ORCID as a reviewer. It's inclusive. So as we say, the contributions to peer review via PREreview are barrier-free, and this extends to the pool of reviewers out to those who have been traditionally excluded from the process before. And as anyone is able to create an ORCID identifier, it ensures that nobody is excluded from this process. And finally, and importantly, we want expertise to be measured by constructive contributions and community engagement. So providing greater recognition to peer review is a really key way of doing this. So being able to provide people the option to sign their reviews with their public profiles and to link this to ORCID helps to build greater recognition and credit for this work. I'm going to pass over to Chad now, who's going to do a bit more of an actual demo of how it works on the website so you can see this in practice. And there is a video in the slides that we can also share afterwards. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now so that Chad can take over.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Let's attempt to share this one. Can everyone see this? Okay. Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah. So this is our sandbox site. This is sandbox.prereview.org. I'm going to take you through some of its features today so that I don't add a review to the real site by accident. I don't want to add a test review to that. But sandbox.prereview.org is open to all of you, to the public as well. So if you're ever curious about the site, how it works, and you want to kind of mess around with it and learn about it in a low-stakes environment, you are welcome to explore sandbox.prereview.org. And when you're ready to join up and perhaps contribute your first pre-review, you can move right on over to prereview.org. But this is our homepage in the sandbox version, like I said. And many of the things that Vanessa touched upon, if you'd like to learn more about pre-review, you can visit through the navigation at the top of the page. You can check out the latest news in our blog. You can learn about us and our partners. You can see the most recent reviews, pre-reviews folks have published. You can see the most recent requests for review that either authors have made through our core notify protocol integration that Vanessa mentioned, or that other pre-reviewers have requested through our website. And there's a request to review link here right on the homepage as well, if you find a preprint you would like others to review along with you. If you want to learn more about the trainings we offer, how we facilitate our live review calls, or take advantage of any of the resources we use to support those programs, teach others, and help them teach their communities, you can visit our resource page. And then our clubs page talks a bit more about that program, talks about how to start a club if you have a group that you would like to collaboratively author pre-reviews with. This is the link for you. And it also has a list of clubs, many of which are open to anyone to join who wants to bring their own kind of expertise and enthusiasm to that research area. Down at the bottom of the page, you can learn a bit more in the footer about, for example, how we're funded, about the team, things like that. But the top and the bottom, that's where you can find most of the information you might want to have to learn about pre-review. And then in the middle of the page, starting at the top, is where you'll find kind of like the action items and the outputs of prereview.org. As you scroll down, you can see our recent review requests. You can see the latest statistics about activity on the site. You can find the most recent pre-reviews. And as Vanessa mentioned, they will be labeled if they came from a live review, if they were written in response to a request, if they are part of a club. And they're also easily skimmable we use OpenAlex, which is an open framework for tagging and categorizing different preprints and different other research outputs. So you can look for areas of research that are relevant to you, that are interesting to you, that you would like to do some reviewing in. And hopefully this kind of lightweight matchmaking will help you find content that you want to review and that you want to share through PREreview. Once you've made your account, and you visit PREreview.org and you're ready to go ahead and to contribute your first pre-review, you would first, naturally, log in. As Vanessa mentioned, this will be done through ORCID, which is probably going to take a second to load here, just because it knows we're doing a demo and it would like to slow things down for us, I guess. But you go ahead and you add in your ORCID ID and your password. And it will take you right back to PREreview and it will let you know that you've been logged in. One of the first things that you might notice when you log into PREreview for the first time is that in addition to login changing to logout, there is now a My PREreviews link where you can visit and check out any of your own activity reviewing on the site, and a My Details page. And on your My Details page, you really get a lot of control over how you want to be identified or represented within our community. As Vanessa mentioned, we have public profiles that people can see, and you control just about every bit of information that you share with our community, apart from very basic things such as your ORCID ID and your pre-review history. You can also take a peek at what your pseudonymous profile looks like. This is not something you'd want to share, but since I do a lot of demos, you all can get to know me as Yellow Hornet as well. And on your pseudonymous profile, which again, no one in the community should be able to link to you, you'll just see a history of that profile's pre-review activity. So no personally identifiable information at all. If you're worried about, maybe a negative response to a review or bias or retaliation, things like that, but you have really important and timely feedback to share, you can use your pseudonymous profile to share that feedback without fear of repercussion. I'll go back here. And those two links at the top of your My Details page let you know what other community members are seeing. The rest of the page is just for you. And so you can connect your ORCID profile if you would like. If you do, we're able to write your public pre-review activity, just your public pre-review activity, to the peer review section of your ORCID profile for recognition. You can add an avatar image if you'd like. You can connect to our Slack community if you're also part of our Slack community. If there's an email address that you would like to share or you would like us to have, you can update it here. You can let people know you're open for review requests or not. And you can set the visibility of those things to be to nobody else, just to other pre-review community members or to the public, to anyone who visits the site. Same thing with career stage. You can add in your own research interests. You can add in your own location if you want, and again, choose how to share that and with whom. And the same thing for your languages. And these things are all meant to let you share in your profile with whomever you'd like a couple of things that might help you make new connections, that might help you find a club to join or help you and others start a new club of your own. That's really what these profiles are for, making connections between you and other community members and matchmaking between you and research that's relevant to you to review. Now, the other big part of the webpage, of course, is the review workflow. And to review a preprint, you just start by clicking the big red button. The first thing that it will ask you for is the DOI of the preprint you'd like to review. I'll go ahead and I'll visit our request page right quick. I'll just pick the third one. Why not? It seems pretty random. And I'll grab the DOI from that one. There we go. I'll go back. I'll start and I'll paste that in. And I'll get, this brief summary of the abstract and some of the meta information just to be sure it's the right preprint I want to review. And I'll hit start now. You can then start a prompted pre-review, or you can start with a template or with a choice that says I've already written the review. And here's the difference. If you pick a prompted review, you'll be guided through a set of prompts and you'll choose a response to each prompt, like this preprint does this very well, or this preprint does this very poorly. And once you've chosen your response each time, and I'll show you in a moment, you can add a bit to a text box that shows up so you can add some comments to explain why you have chosen that answer. If you begin with a template, or I've already written the review, and we can start there right quick, you'll get a box like this where if I expand my screen a little bit, there's a text editor that will help you there. Maybe if I reload that, that'll render better. Nope, I'll have to talk with Chris about that. Our tech lead will fix that in a jiffy. I'm sure it's fine on PREreview.org. Thank you, Sleepy the dog. But there's just a little template here. You can get rid of it, and you can type in, or you can copy and paste in your review, save and continue, and go right through the rest of the workflow. But if you'd like a little more support, or you're trying to help others understand the kinds of questions they should answer in a pre-review and a review of a preprint, you can choose with prompts. And then you'll be taken through a workflow like this. You'll get a series of questions such as, does the introduction explain the objective of the research? And you can say, yes, partly, no, or I don't know. I'll choose partly. And here's where I could explain why I give it that rating. This text box shows up. I'll just say test comment for now. I'll copy and paste that for later. And it will take you through this series of questions. And we developed these questions with community members, got their feedback on what the questions should be, shared a draft of the questions with them, took in their feedback and revised the questions. And that's how we came up with this prompted workflow here. And we found it very useful to share with folks who either would like a little bit of structure added to their review and they're unsure of how to proceed with that, or again, they'd like to share with others or teach others the kinds of questions to answer during peer review. Then you get to talk a little bit about, would it benefit from language editing? We'll say no. This one, it seems fine. But you could say yes, and then give a few examples of things that you'd like to see edited. Would you recommend the preprint to others? I'll say sure, maybe after some improvement. Is it ready for further attention from like an editor, a publisher, another audience? Keep going with this yes. This middle, partly yes, after some minor changes. Then you can choose the name you'd like to use. So here's where you get to choose your public profile or your pseudonym. And there's a little bit of helper text to help you make that choice. I'll choose my public profile. Save and continue. Then I'm asked, did I review this with anyone else? If I'm part of a club or if I'm part of a group that has collaboratively written a review, I can say yes. And some of these folks want to be listed as authors. I'll affirm that they have read and approved the pre-review. And then I just get to add them by name and by email address. Once you save and continue here, you can add additional authors if you'd like. You don't have to. And then we take care of emailing them and asking them how they would like to be credited. Would they like to use their public or pseudonymous profile? So you don't need to do anything else after this step. You get to declare competing interests if you have any. I'll say yes, just so you can see that a box shows up where you can put in any competing interests that you have. We do ask you to affirm that you're following the code of conduct. And we give you some helpful examples of acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. If you say yes, you get to save and continue. And then you get to check your pre-review. And you can go through and change any of the answers you gave. You can go back and fix an email address for one of your other authors if you made a typo, anything like that. You have this moment here just to double check everything to make sure it's exactly as you'd like it to be. And then you can publish the pre-review. That pre-review, this one will display as if it published. It didn't really publish, but on PREreview.org, not Sandbox, your pre-review will be published on Zenodo. It'll get its own DOI. We'll pull that pre-review back into PREreview.org to display it as one of our recent pre-reviews. If you've chosen to integrate with ORCID, we will credit you in the peer review section of your public ORCID profile. And then there's a bit of helper text here, just suggesting where you might share your pre-review or next steps you might take. And you can go back to the preprint, where your pre-review now shows up alongside. That was pretty quick. That wasn't everything, but I want to make sure that we can move things along to our colleagues at Erin and continue the webinar. So I would just say, if you have questions about the platform, the community, any of that, please feel free to reach out to us at community@prereview.org or help@prereview.org. Or if you want to go deeper into the platform, you can email me directly at chad@prereview.org. And I will stop sharing, mute myself and my dog and the roofers working out there, and turn things over to our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Vanessa and Chad, for the nice presentation. Now we allow Rosaline to go on with the presentation. Thank you.
I think this section is Lamis.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for Africa Archive and for peer review for this opportunity. And we're really happy to share our experience at the African Reproducibility Network with peer review, which is turning out to be wonderful so far. If you could click Vanessa, yeah. So through our partnership with the peer review, so a bit about AREN. So we are a part of a global network of reproducibility networks. And we are mainly hoping to reach African scholars that are at the grassroots, of course, who are currently conducting the science, the experiments in the field, and try to bring different open science practices and knowledge to them. And hopefully they could spread it to their community. So our partnership with peer review is part of a strategic approach that we're trying to do. As at AREN, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but mainly what we're trying to do is to connect the African scholars that we have in our community with initiatives, whether they are global or African, different initiatives, open science initiatives, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and then we could allow these open science initiatives and community to transfer their knowledge and experience to our African community, and also allow our African community to give feedback to these communities about maybe some unique aspects or experiences that our African communities have. So next, please, Vanessa. Our main partnership so far has been through the Local Network Leads Training Program. And this is an extensive 6-month training program where we started with 100 applicants, and now and these went through screening and through 2 levels of training, and now we're in the final level of training. And in these trainings, we teach them about different open science knowledge and practices. And also in this final level, we teach them more about how they could become effective leaders for their community, because this is what we expect them to do after this training program, is that they go and take what they have learned in the training program and bring it over to their community. And so peer review have helped us in the first 2 levels of the training, which were the first level was mainly aimed at delivering knowledge about different open science practices. So peer review have kindly helped us in delivering like basic knowledge and concept about open peer review. And then in the next level, it was more of the practical aspect, which is how could our trainees become open reviewers. And next, please, Vanessa. And we were so happy to see that when we did a pre-training survey and a post-training survey, and we asked the trainees how confident they were in their ability to conduct open peer review. And at the pre-training survey, you can see that some of them were not so confident, and kind of half of them was kind of very confident. But after the training, you can see that a purple or violet bar increasing so much. And now we don't have the red bar anymore. So this was really nice. We were very happy to see that, they were able to enhance their open peer reviewing skills. And next, Vanessa. And again, as part of the training, we were so happy to conduct another live review. And as you can see, many of our trainees participated in the live review, and the review was published with their names and their ORCID IDs. Yeah, so it is a wonderful experience. And I hope, and I think that peer review has also learned some of the challenges that some of the African scholars might have. And this might help them in sort of modifying a bit some of their training materials in the future to be more tailored to African researchers. And by that, I hope I didn't take too much of your time, and thank you very much for the opportunity again.
Thank you very much, Nassim. So far, we are going to invite Rosaline to take through. And as I said, in the comment section, if you have questions, we'll wait for, we have a Q&A session, then you can post your question in the chat section. At this moment, we welcome Rosaline. Thanks.
Thank you, Otto, and thanks to PREreview and am I audible enough? Okay, great.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks to all the organizers. I'm happy to present the experience we have had as part of the Rwanda Preprint Club in terms of preprint review and live review. So it started as my personal experience participating in other live review sessions organized by PREreview and other partners. I also noticed how insightful and helpful these sessions are to early career researchers who want to gather experience, who want to learn and improve their work in different aspects. So working with different early career researchers in Rwanda, I decided to introduce to them the aspect of peer review and live review. Many of the members were interested and expressed interest. And it was as a result of that interest that we organized together with PREreview a session to review a preprint titled Stigma Against Mental Illness and Mental Health, the Role of Social Media, published by Amelia and colleagues. This was in collaboration with PREreview, as I mentioned earlier. Vanessa had already showed us an image of the published reviewed session. So during this session, we had participants from diverse career stage because we made the session public to anyone who wanted to join, including traditional journal editors who participated. The entire process ended up with the post I shared with Vanessa had shared with us earlier, and it was seamless. It took us just a week to have everything done and put together for the benefit of the authors. Next slide, please. And as you can see, we already have testimonials from some of the benefactors, including the traditional journal editors. And this is coming from one saying that despite my extensive experience in reviewing manuscripts for many years and my recognition in local and international index journals, this experience with the Rwanda preprints offered me a fresh perspective on the academic approach to manuscripts. I was partially impressed and inspired by several aspects. Preprint journals are indeed fast, accurate, transparent, and constructive significantly. With all these, I believe we all can see that preprint and PREreview or peer review or live review are very important depending on how we want to use it. So as outcome, we have more early career scientists reaching out and requesting for their preprints or their write-ups to be reviewed in similar fashion. It has also increased the number of early career researchers expressing interest to join the club for similar benefits. That's also increased the number of preprints posted, particularly via a free archive. And it has also created awareness in the wider African setting and so many others expressing interest out of Rwanda to join the club. Next slides. Thank you, Vanessa, for coordinating.
Thank you very much, Rosaline, for the nice presentation, for giving us an insight from Preprint. And now we'll give the time to our final speaker, Ebuka. You can take the time to your time.
All right. Good evening, everyone from here. I hope you can all hear me. So can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you, yes.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. My name is Ebuka Ezike. I am the project manager at Africa Kai and also at Access Perspectives. So today I will be speaking on the topic, how collaborative peer review can help to, boost and affect or give a positive side of scientific research. All right, so to begin, I would like us to, look at what peer review is. So peer review is a process used in academic and scholarly publishing, where experts in the same field as the author evaluate a manuscript or research work before it is published. So I believe most of us are already conversant with what peer review is. And then, like I just read, is a process in scholarly or academic publishing where experts, who are in the same field as the author in question get to, evaluate the author's research manuscripts and give their feedback or recommendations before the research work is made public or published. Now, what is the goal behind peer review? Now, one of the goals behind peer reviewing is first to ascertain or assess the quality of the research done, and then also to check the validity and also the originality of the work, and to ensure that it meets the standard of, first the discipline where the research work was carried out, and then also that it meets the standard of publication. Next slide, please. All right, so traditionally, how it's done with peer reviewing is that usually we have individual reviewers coming to review research manuscripts or research work. But then we've seen over the time or over the years that this kind of process is usually slow, and then it takes time, it is lengthy and all of that. And then most times in this kind of individual reviewer processes, we discover that the feedbacks given are not as accurate, so to speak, because the review process was carried out by just an individual. But then now we're going to look at collaborative peer review because that is the essence behind what we're doing today, to help improve the research process, because individual peer reviewing takes a lot of time and the feedback are not usually as concrete as collaborative peer review. So like I said, from here now, that's hence the need for collaborative peer review, which provides a much higher quality feedback, and it minimizes bias and also opens up the peer review process to those who have been traditionally excluded from it. So there are a lot of benefits from collaborative peer review. Higher quality feedback, great recommendations from those that are reviewing the research work, and so on and so forth. So before we move on, let's look at what collaborative peer review is. So collaborative peer review involves multiple reviewers coming together to evaluate a research paper. So instead of having an individual, review a research work, it pays more, or it will benefit us more if we have a number of researchers or a number of reviewers coming together to evaluate a particular researcher's paper, right? So, and like I said, instead of working in isolation, these reviewers discuss their thoughts and feedback openly, sharing their insights and concerns with one another. these team efforts can lead to a more thorough and balanced assessment of the research. So when we have a number of reviewers coming together, unlike when an individual reviewer is doing the evaluation, it's a lot better than when an individual is doing it, because we have these reviewers coming together to share their thoughts, give open feedback as to what they think about the research, and then they share their insights and concerns together with one another. So we see that with this kind of peer reviewing, there are lots of benefits to gain from. So next slide, please. All right, so let's look at the benefits of the collaborative peer review process. Now, one of the benefits of collaborative peer review process is one, higher quality feedback. So when we have these reviewers coming together to review or evaluate particular research work, like I said previously, each of them are coming with their ideas, each of them are coming with their insights, and then they are giving constructive feedback as to what they think of the research work. And then at the end of the day, we see that this helps to give an improved or an overall quality, feedback about the research paper in question. And then secondly, another benefit of collaborative peer review process is that there is a reduction in the bias level. For instance, when we have different reviewers coming from different backgrounds, different regions, different races, different countries coming together to review a particular research work, for instance, we discover that the tendency for bias is very reduced. Why? Because we have a whole lot of people coming together, not just an individual of a particular race or ethnic group or country coming to review somebody else's work from a lower perceived region, so to speak. So when we have a collaborative peer review process, there is tendency for reduced bias. So another benefit is that the review process is a lot faster than in a case where we have just an individual coming to review a research work. So that's another benefit of collaborative peer review. Is a lot faster. The process is fast, and the whole thing is speeded up and all of that. Before the whole review process is done, and then the work is published. So next slide, please. All right, so another benefit of collaborative peer review is mentorship and learning. So for researchers of all levels, but particularly early career researchers, participating in collaborative peer review can be a valuable learning experience. So as we know in the collaborative peer review process, we know that authors have a very good access to the reviewers. So also the reviewers have a very good access to the authors. So when, especially early career researchers, when the work that they are doing or the research project they are carrying out is going through the peer review process, especially the collaborative peer review process, we discover that it provides an opportunity for them to learn. Why? Because they are part of the process, they understand what is happening. All of the insights shared, experiences shared are shared with them as well, because the feedback, the recommendations made are shared with the authors or the author in question, and then it helps us. It helps to provide that mentorship, or it serves as a learning ground for these early career researchers. So this mentorship aspect helps build a stronger, more knowledgeable community for researchers. So, and then the final benefits of collaborative peer review is that we have an improved research transparency. So in the collaborative peer review process, it is open to everyone. The author is aware of what is happening. The reviewers are aware of what is happening, and they are working together with the author. So whatever feedback they give, whatever recommendation they make, whatever ideas they share, the thoughts, the insights they share with the author, it is made open for the author to see. So the author is carried along in this kind of process, and then it's a lot transparent. Everyone knows what is happening. So collaborative peer review promotes transparency in the research process. So reviewers' discussions and feedback can be made available to the authors, and in some cases to the public. So this openness helps to build trust in the research findings and the review process itself. So, and a very good example we can give is the pre-reviews live reviews session, right? In which we have researchers from all around the world coming together to review a particular preprint or research paper. So that is an example of how collaborative peer review can promote transparency. So at this point, I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you have seen that, of course, it pays, or it is more beneficial for us to have collaborative peer reviewing than individual peer review. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ebuka, and all speakers. And at this time, we will allow the question from the participant. If you have the question, please go on the chat and paste your questions. We will really ask our speakers to answer that. Thank you very much. And with the due time, we might allow 2 or 3 questions from the participant. As we are waiting for the questions in the chat, I have 1 to 2 questions to ask our speakers. So the first question is, how can African researchers and research institutions integrate peer review platform into their workforce? Yeah.
Thanks, Arthur. So I can sort of answer that. So at PREreview, we're not a preprint repository, so you can't come and post your preprint directly onto PREreview, but we are a place where you can get feedback for your preprint. So if you're a preprint author, you can come along to PREreview, you can request a review, you put in the DOI of your preprint, and it will go to our Slack community, and it will also display on our website for people to give feedback to your preprint. And if you're looking to provide feedback, you can go on the website. You can either review a preprint that you yourself have already read and would like to provide feedback on, or you can also look through the review requests and find something that you would be interested in providing feedback on, and where you feel like you have the expertise to lend to that paper. As we mentioned in the talk, this is really good to build skills, build a network with our community, and we'll share the link to our community Slack in the chat if anyone would like to join, and also to get credit. So whenever you post a pre-review, you are able to choose whether to use your public name or a pseudonym if you don't feel comfortable having your public name on it. But if you opt for your public name, then you can link this to your ORCID profile. Your works, if you grant permission to PREreview to do this, will automatically go onto your ORCID profile. And this is a way for you to build credit and recognition for the work that you've done. And I would say that we are then encouraging institutions to then take into account this extra work that goes on in the scholarly research process. So not just the published paper, the final version, but also all the other work that goes on, including the important work of peer review, and that should get more credit and recognition.
Well, thank you very much, Vanessa, for the great answer. And we have a question from one of the participants. The participant is Paul Mneja from Tanzania. So they are asking is, how do publishers use these reviews just in case they also want to publish the preprint?
So again, there are different ways in which publishers can use these reviews. We do work with a number of publishers, such as JMIR Publications, who we mentioned earlier. We do live review events with them. So they have a preprint server, and people submit their work submit their work on a preprint server to then be submitted to JMIR Publications later. And they take this into account. So then we've been working with JMIR Publications to run collaborative live reviews. the final review that gets published on PREreview.org. It's also linked to on the JMEA website, and they take this review into account alongside their traditional review process. So this is one way in which publishers and journals are taking these reviews into account when they decide what it is that they then go on to accept and publish in their own journals. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes, I think maybe I think he's answered. You have answered correctly the question, and we have another kind of question. I think from Beamba, they're saying how do we push the reviews to be uploaded? I think this one is a little bit technical. I think maybe Chad can answer that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so at the end of the workflow, whether you are copying and pasting your review or responding to those prompts that I showed you, when you click that button at the end to publish the pre-review after you've seen your changes, it gets published on Zenodo and then displayed on PREreview.org automatically. And it also gets its own DOI. So you'll be able to see that pre-review that you've written nearly immediately, and you'll be able to grab a DOI from it to share with other people that you might like to share that review with as well. But yeah, it's automated. So once you hit the publish button at the end of the workflow, it should be taken care of for you.
Okay, thank you, Chad. And we should take maybe the last question. I think the question from Alex, this one might be Alex from Kenya, is asking, what can he make a paper not to be accepted in the pre-review stage?
Sorry, so what a paper not be accepted at pre-review stage? So as I mentioned before, we're not actually a preprint server. We don't make any decisions on papers. So people can post their preprints online. So the research is out there, it's open, and it's accessible for people to read and to provide feedback on. And then people then provide this feedback via pre-review. And as you would see through the process, there's lots of different comments that people can make. But there's not any point in which you would say this paper is rejected or accepted, because that's not the point of pre-review. The point is just to provide useful feedback to authors that can then go away, they can improve that work. It may go on to be published elsewhere, it may not. So we're not somewhere that has like an accept or reject decision as part of that process.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for answering the question. And due to time constraints, we will just still accepting the question. If you want more question, if you want more information on preprints, you might visit the websites which will be provided through the links below. And thank you very much for joining on this webinar session. The recording of the session can be found on our website, africarchive.org, and the slide will be made available on the link which will be posted in the comment section. You can also get the full details and register for the ongoing webinar series at info.africarchive.ubuntunet.net Open Science Webinar Series. And the link will also be provided in the chat section. This webinar series is co-organized by UbuntuNet Alliance and Access to Perceptives as part of the ORCID Global Participation Program. Many thanks to our today's speaker, Vanessa Fairhurst, Chad from PREreview, Rosaline Dine from the Rwanda Preprint Club, Lamis Muhammad Eke from the University of Khartoum and the African Reproducibility Network. And we are finally, more thanks to Ebuka Ezeke from Access to Perceptive. The topic which we are discussing today is open peer review, collaborative preprint review, and opportunities to learn and teach others. Thank you thank you for joining us in today's session. We have many more exciting webinars and speakers in our subsequent session. And our next webinar session will be on 19th September 2024. And our guest will be Rosaline Dine from Rwanda Preprint Club. We are all looking forward to having you attend again. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.